What's up, and welcome to the Uncle Cyborg Show, everybody, where we talk about the biggest topics and favorite things about video games while keeping it rated E for everyone.
Nice.
I'm your host, Hyro King, Bo Mitchell. And over here joining me, we've got Matthew, aka Dat Boy Few.
Hello. I got to make a correction. Last video I claimed I ate 30. I looked at the Sonic menu. I actually only ate 22 cheese sticks.
Much more realistic.
Liar. Leave the
Sorry.
video now.
Yeah. Comment the timestamp when you're leaving.
Comment the timestamp you left the video. Here we also have Super Man.
Oh, banana.
Wow.
Today, if you couldn't
Relevant.
tell, we're talking about DK, Donkey Kong. He's the leader of the bunch. You know him well. He's finally back to kick some tail. I always like the version of Melee. I know this is sacrilege to say. I've always liked the version of Melee better because it has the guy going. It's so cool. I don't
Yeah,
know what it
yeah.
is about that. I always like that.
I
Anyway,
think
we're
it's a
talking
better
today.
mix.
Yeah, if you couldn't tell, we're talking today about DK Bananza. Finally, I can't wait. Nolan's been playing it, and we're gonna do our review. Can't wait to hear from him.
I have been so stoked to talk about this game and also dreading it at the same time because this is one where
Yeah.
I'm going to say something in about a minute here that I think is going to anger some people.
Kids.
But I've got a good reason for what I've got to say. So to begin, I feel it necessary to give you just a little bit of my gaming history because my introduction to video games was around 3-4 years old at my grandma's house when my uncle was living there. It was maybe my first time really hanging out with them one-on-one, though I think Matthew, as a near infant, might have been hanging around too. And we played two games, Dr. Mario and Donkey Kong
Nice.
Country. And playing Donkey Kong
Hey.
Country, I fell in love with that game. It was
Great
the
game.
game that got me wanting to play video games and what I wanted every video game to be like. Once a month or so, I would go over to my aunt and uncle's apartment, and I would be absolutely intolerable until we were playing Donkey Kong Country. When I got my first video game in Game Boy Advance in Christmas of 2001, I played anything that I could get my hands on, but there was nothing that hit like walking into Walmart in the summer of 2003 and seeing Donkey Kong Country for the GBA on those shelves. And I would go on to fight tooth and nail to 101% that game. I had the gut when we got our Super Nintendo in around 2004. I sought out the entire trilogy. I spent who knows how many hours playing DK64 at McDonald's. Donkey Kong 1981 is one of the maybe 3 or 4 games I can actually get my dad to play with me. I was a super fan and like to think that I still am of Donkey Kong. So if you have a Nintendo Switch,
for Donkey Kong.
I would.
Oh,
So
I'm outta
if
here.
You
Get out of here.
so if you have a Nintendo Switch 2, you have access to the majority of the all-time great 3D platforms. I mean, Mario 64, Sunshine
Yeah.
and Galaxy through Mario 3D All-Stars, plus Mario Odyssey. And with how much the Donkey Kong franchise means to me, I am almost overwhelmed to be able to say that if you can only play one 3D platformer on the Nintendo Switch 2, it should be the all-time best 3D platformer and 10 out of 10 masterpiece, Donkey Kong Bananza.
Wow. All right.
I was so
Dang.
shocked by this game and how much I was enjoying it, especially after seeing the same previews and trailers you all did. But Donkey Kong Bananza is an absolutely smashing success. Donkey Kong has been in a strange spot for years, beloved for his legacy, but rarely the headliner in Nintendo's modern lineup. You don't see him in the pictures with Link and the Pikmin and the Splatoon kids. Donkey Kong Bananza changes that, swinging in with the swagger of a character who finally has something new to say. Built for the Nintendo Switch 2, Bananza doesn't just give us another trip to the jungle, it redefines what happens in the moments between the jumps. Yes, the platforming is sharp and the worlds and the layers are lush and intricate, but what sets this apart is how it keeps you engaged every second that you're moving. In this game, downtime isn't downtime. It's an invitation to smash, collect, and carve your own path forward. Now, at first glance, it's easy to think Donkey Kong Bananza would quickly outstay its welcome as you punch through your 100th mountain. I mean, after all, how long can you indiscriminately, be smashing the environment and keep it interesting?
Yeah, that was
But
what I thought when I first saw it. Yeah.
but I think what's also easy is to mistake what this game is going for. Because in a platformer, what do? You jump between platforms. But what are you doing in between the jumps? If you're playing a 3D Mario, you run, maybe occasionally roll. And after Mario 64, call it controversial, but I didn't find the running parts all that fun after that game. So Donkey Kong Bananza is a 3D platformer collectathon, and in between the platforms, you are smashing and making your collection more attainable by finding resources, currency, and even maps. It feels like this legendary Mario Odyssey team finished that game and then asked, how do you make the thing you do between the fun parts more fun? And they came up with a solution to the problem I didn't even know I had with 3D platformers. Now, coming off of a Switch 2 playthrough of Mario Odyssey, I felt there was far too much space between the jumps. The platforming, what we're here for. The game was at its best when I could keep hopping from place to place. So if you can't keep that going, what do you do in between? DK offers the solution. You smash your way from place to place and have a blast doing it. And let's talk about how you do all that smashing, because Bananza's control system is the sort of thing that feels strange for the first 20 minutes, but then permanently rewires your brain. Instead of the usual jump with A, attack with Y kind of setup, each face button is a different move. Yeah, you still got A to jump, but then your X or top button is to punch up, your B button or down button is to punch down, and your Y button or side button is to punch horizontally, to punch forward. At first, it's like Nintendo gave me a GameCube controller from an alternate universe, but once it clicks, it's absolutely genius. You're not just pressing attack, you're choosing the exact punch for the exact moment. So you can hop, uppercut, slam, then lunge, all without breaking flow. It makes DK actually feel agile and deliberate, like a heavyweight boxer who also happens to be part mountain goat. Now, here's the thing. Bananza doesn't expect you to level entire layers, the game's big destructible stages. But when you do give in to the primal urge to obliterate the terrain, the game makes it worth your time doing. I spend a few minutes on a destruction bender, and you'll pull in treasure chests filled with gold, resources, and maps that lead to collectibles like fossils, for the stylish layer-specific cosmetics, Banandian gems used for upgrading your abilities, and Banandium chips, you trade these in for even more gems. And if you pop a Bananza, DK's meter-draining super form, chest bonds can go absolutely crazy, turning the world into a loot pinata. And those Bananza forms, they're not just like a flashy power-up. They're a core pillar of what makes this game so, to me, endlessly replayable. There are 5 distinct forms, each with its own movement quirks and special abilities, and the game builds entire puzzles and platforming sequences around them. One form might let you glide over massive gaps, another one can burrow straight through walls, and another one can slam the ground with such force that flips platforms into place, or you can run really fast across dissolving platforms. But the real magic is that most of the time, you're free to solve the problems however you'd want. I would get finished with a tricky section feeling really clever, and then look up a video of someone else doing that same part, but completely differently, and think, wow, I would have never thought to do it that way. I didn't know you could use this ability that way. And it's that mix of designer crafted challenges and player creativity that keeps Bananza's platforming from ever becoming stale. And this all feeds into one of the best in-game economies that I've seen in years, because your gems upgrade your moves. The chips get you more gems. Fossils unlock cosmetics that aren't just pretty, although they are really stylish. I love some of these paints that they have for DK in particular, but they come with buffs like reducing hazard damage or extending your Bananza time. Everything feels purposeful. purposeful. It's not collect 100 doodads to hear a little jingle. It's collect 100 doodads and you've gone from Donkey Kong to King Kong. The platforming is a
Nice.
pitch perfect mix. 50% jumping, 40% climbing, and 10% smashing open new paths. And later on, maybe even creating some new platforms. The classic Donkey Kong Country roll off a platform and jump trick is here, but now with an extra mid-air roll for some pretty wild shortcuts. The nostalgia hit when I realized it worked exactly the same way it did in the SNES days, only now it's in glorious 3D. It was pretty sweet and felt
Nice.
so good as a longtime fan. The challenge rooms are a particular highlight, as Nintendo does with all their tentpole games now. But they're not just arena, fight waves, collect reward, though yes, some of them are that. But more often, they're these clever little obstacle courses with a 3-tier prize system. 1 gem for clearing the gimmick, for another for mastering it, and then a hidden third for thinking outside the box and finding where the heck in this little world the thing could possibly be. I could have done 100 of these in a row, and the late game actually kind of flirts with that idea a little bit. But while enemy variety is very low, and they lean considerably toward generic, a late game revelation recontextualizes these enemies and actually makes them really cool to come back to later as you clean up the upper layers. And the bosses, for the first 2/3 of the game, they were fun enough. Glass chin, punching bags, pretty forgettable, but I never had a bad time with a single one of them. For the first, but oh man, the late game ones are Nintendo at their most ambitious. They're cinematic, they're mechanically dense, and perhaps the most difficult bosses, in my opinion, in any Nintendo platformer. This really, especially ramps up towards the finale, where the last 1 to 2 hours are full on what is even happening moments, like the kind of unhinged spectacle I usually expect from Kojima, not from Donkey Kong. This goes some weird places at the end, and I was there for every minute of it.
So they got the DK feet in the mix.
But you don't understand. We gotta spin your feet,
A
brother.
little
The game won't be the same.
No, story-wise, this may
Had to
be
say it.
Nintendo's best outside of Zelda and the RPGs, which is not to say that it's an amazing story, but it's certainly a step up. Now, it's
Nice.
not going to get them any awards in story, but it's definitely worth praising. DK and Pauline are excellent on their own, but together they have real chemistry that is sweet, it's funny, and it's surprisingly heartfelt. Pauline's whole find her voice arc may not necessarily be groundbreaking, but it ties beautifully into the game's music-heavy theme, and it's refreshing to see her get actual character development instead of just waving from the sidelines like a lot of your runner-up characters in Nintendo games. Now, a 10 out of 10 masterpiece is not necessarily a perfect game. I have issues with every 10 out of 10 game that I've ever played, but my gripes, and they're small, are worth mentioning. Hazard resistance buffs are mostly a post-game reward, and I really wish they became more effective earlier. Like, if I grind before finishing a layer's main quest, give me a little more juice for my trouble. As for performance, this game is doing some incredible things, and especially towards the end where, not to get too much into it, but you will have areas where there are no platforms and you've got to go you are creating platforms on the go. But I hit performance issues twice in this game, and unfortunately they happened during the 2 hardest bosses in the game. I mean, we're talking multiple deaths because the frame rate dipped so hard that I had to actually change my entire strategy just to keep the game from choking up. There was also one late game, and that's it for technical stuff. Otherwise, it was technically flawless. It was just those 2 parts. I just hated that it was those 2 parts. Where it came up. It is. It really is. It's inexcusable in the sense that like Nintendo really should have worked those parts so hard. But at the same
Yeah.
time, they're doing some really incredible stuff. I mean, the entire environment is changing. And it's changing uniquely for each individual. Everybody who plays that is going to have a different environment there, and you're changing it second by second. And it's sometimes arena wide. Like it's crazy what they're doing here. It makes sense that it chugs, but it shouldn't do it, you know.
Yeah.
But anyways,
hopefully they work on that maybe.
I hope so. I hope there'll
patch,
be a
maybe.
patch. And it worked a little bit better when I went to handheld mode, but there was still a little bit of it. I did have to come up with a different strat. But anyways, there was also a late game objective that was so vague that I spent probably an hour running around like a lost tourist. Occasionally, you have these less than specific objectives, but for the most part, they do a pretty great job leading you forward. And the soundtrack peaks when it's remixing David Wise classics, but too often drifts into high quality royalty free music territory, which is like soulless jazz and blues, which is frustrating for a game that is so heavily focused on the literary themes of music. And for the love of all that is barrel blasted Nintendo, why can we not, in the year of our Lord 2025, change the audio mix? Like, I want to hear the Minecart Madness theme, but I can't hear it over the ching ching ching.
You will play the game the way we intended.
It's part of.
It's ridiculous.
They want it to be part of the song. You have to hear the.
I can't hear the song. Anyways,
no,
even with
if
those
you get on
hiccups-
Nintendo Music, you can go listen to it. Go get on the app.
There is, at least in this game, it has an in-game record system, unlike Mario Kart World, which desperately needed it. But even with those hiccups,
Odyssey had a record system. Yeah, I remember that.
Donkey Kong Bananza isn't just great; it is an all-timer. It's a kind of game that feels joyful in its design, confident in execution, and endlessly fun to play, whether you're chasing every last collectible or just improvising your way through a tricky layer. And I feel Nintendo has finally given Donkey Kong the big, bold, modern 3D platformer that he's been deserving for decades. It's smart, it's stylish, it's wildly creative, and it's always fun. That said, hit me with your questions if you've got any.
I've got a main.
All right. Yeah, go ahead, Matthew.
So the big, to me, well, first off, is this, in your opinion, hands down the best Donkey Kong?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't think any other Donkey Kong game is a 10 out of 10.
Wow.
This is a 10 out of 10.
So
this is the only 3D platformer I would consider a 10 out of 10. I think Mario Odyssey got really close. I mean, if we're talking about Mario 64 back in the 90s, like, okay, we'll give Mario 64 that. But like these 3D platformers, I mean, yeah, the way they build on top of themselves, the way Nintendo specifically builds on top of them, like, of course, each entry is going to be better than the last because once they fix something, they don't go back on it, and then they just keep adding on top of it. So this really does feel like this is the Mario Odyssey team. This does feel like the natural evolution of what's happening between the Mario Galaxies, Mario Odyssey, and now with Donkey Kong Bananza.
Okay, so leading up to my question now. So to me, what was so fun about Donkey Kong Countries is that, you know, one level you were climbing ropes and the level was like horizontally vertical. The next you're in the mine carts, you're jumping rails, and then you're swimming underwater. You're going through, you know, having to dodge the little vines with animals. Does this game do a good job of like variety between levels of that same kind of mix up, or is it kind of you're doing the same thing? Like, is it the same core gameplay across the game? Is I guess what I'm trying to say, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, I gotcha. I think it changes it up well, and I think there's two ways that they do that. One is the bonanzas, because each time that you are there's, let's see here. There's like 18 different layers in this game, but there's 5 of them that are like the big, you know, this is like the story moment kind of thing where you're going to fight like the boss, you're going to unlock a new bonanza, stuff like that. And then you've got a couple more that are maybe 2 or 3 more that are equally big like those. But in each of these main areas, you are getting something new that is going to be contextually different and create new, unique gameplay opportunities that just weren't available to you 30 minutes before because you just didn't have this ability. They do a lot of cool things with the gimmicks and with the different layers. I was surprised by how many poison swamps there were, and to the point where I had to look at the credits. I was like, was Miyazaki on this joint?
Yeah.
Um, but in addition to that, they also have these challenge rooms, which they're plentiful. But they really do a great job of helping you break up things. Because you go from trying to track things down to cool. Now instead of doing that, I've got a clear objective that I'm trying to hit, and I can search this area for for maybe a hidden secret or two as well.
Yeah.
Nice. So,
By the
gotta
way, I did
ask-
drop my notes in the doc if you guys want to look at those. But go ahead, Bo.
So you said that there is like David Weiss music. Is there DK64 music? I love that soundtrack too.
There's little bits of it. I will say that anytime they bring in the music, it's for a moment.
Yeah, it's more like a reference.
No, it's a lot more Donkey Kong Country than it is DK64 with the music, but there are a couple little references to it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, but a lot of those are really hidden in, and you'll find them like as you're collecting records and things like that. But
nice.
The times where it's like super obvious is I wish there were more of these. This is a very minor complaint I have, but I really wish that there was more of these challenge rooms. They have they have country levels. They have 4 country levels. They have nostalgia country, Minecraft country, another Bramble country, and it's taking iconic levels from Donkey Kong Country games and turning them into these challenge rooms, and they're side scrolling and all that stuff, and they're a ton of fun. I wish that there was so many more of them, but they bring in like just a different mix of the same general theme. But there's a couple of them, like the Minecart Madness theme actually like brings in leitmotifs every here and there, like when you go on a minecart later, like towards the end game, it plays a really like, it's a new theme, but it brings in those same do 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 from Minecart Madness.
Nice.
So it's a lot of it is really just there as an homage. It's not used regularly.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
So do you think it's going to be hard for what you play? You think it's going to be hard for them to go back to what would be traditional Donkey Kong?
I think there's room for both, just like there is with Mario. I mean, Mario gets his 3D platforms and his 2D platforms. I think that they are totally different lanes. Like I said, I think that this is just an honest continuation of the Mario platformers, just with adding a new flavor to it. And this could just be a new direction for Donkey Kong. But another part of me also wonders if, maybe we're not actually going to get a new 3D Mario for a while now. Because this is very clearly the evolution of that formula.
Yeah.
I'm sure
I think there's very much room for this, but I think what this does more than anything else is create a new brand for Donkey Kong and a new expectation of what a Donkey Kong game is. And this game, I feel, does a great job of respecting the past, but also setting it up for the future of what they want this franchise to be. I think Nintendo's going to start taking Donkey Kong seriously, and I would be shocked if there wasn't more side-scrolling platformers in his future.
Yeah, I've always loved Donkey Kong, so I'm glad to see more of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's pretty fun.
Do you think this? Obviously, gave it a 10 out of 10. Do you think this is a easy game of the year contender?
Absolutely. I will. I don't see how. I mean,
I am nervous. I've heard people talking like it replaced Claire for them. It's like, oh no.
Yeah. Let me put it this way.
It looks really good to me too.
Everybody I've talked to who's played both games, they enjoyed Donkey Kong Bananza better. The only argument that I've heard from one person was that, and this person said Claire Obscure for them was a 9 out of 10, but Donkey Kong Bananza was a 10 out of 10. But because what Claire Obscure did for its genre And it being done by such a small studio that it had its moment this year that it makes it their game of the year. But they still will say Donkey Kong Bananza is a
Interesting.
better game. So this is
I do
100% my
really
game of
want
the
to
year.
play.
I can put that. I don't
Yeah.
see anything replacing this because this is easily in my top 20 games of all time.
Wow.
And and like I said, it's my favorite 3D platform, and I like 3D platformers. I just don't think any of them has ever been 10 out of 10 status until today.
Wow.
What a year
Yeah,
for
that's pretty
games, huh?
impressive.
What a
Yeah,
year,
it's
man.
Like
been
who would
pretty
like
interesting.
I remember at the beginning of the year we were like trying to see like, oh, this could be good, that might be all right, and then now it's like everybody.
I mean, it was a pretty stacked year. Even like I remember we commented like, "Holy cow, there's so many games coming out."
Yeah, but like the
So-
like I didn't expect so many. Like it's like every other month it's like, oh, new
Bangers.
game of the year, new game of the year.
Yeah.
Everybody
Right?
everybody thought Grand Theft Auto was coming out this year, so they put their best stuff out to try to compete.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right.
All right.
I don't. Yeah, for me, I don't know if GTA 6 would have been able to beat this out.
Wow.
Well, I don't know.
Praise.
I don't know. It depends on what they've been cooking. They're a rock star.
Yeah. Guess we'll have to see. That will probably have to be another episode. Let us know how you feel about Donkey Kong Bonanza in the comments. I'm really excited to play it when I get around to it. It looks pretty great, and hearing this is like,
So
oh
good.
man, I gotta go out and get a Switch too.
Yeah,
This is the killer app for the Switch 2. I mean, it
they should've
is
launched it with
baffling
this,
to me
sounds
that
like.
this was not the launch. Baffling to me.
Yeah.
Wild.
You kind of got to go Mario on
That's
launch,
pretty
don't
great.
you?
Yeah,
You kind of do.
sometimes.
I understand why. I just don't agree with the decision. But I'm glad it's here now.
Yeah. Well, let us know how you feel. I've been the Hyrule King. There's been Step with you and Super Nolan Man, and we will see you guys on the next episode.